Hey there, Patriots. Welcome back to the front lines. Death Watch here to give you guys more intel so you can update your personal armory and fight back against the fake news media machine. And today we'll be talking about Alice Cooper, who was dropped by a goth cosmetic brand, Vampire Cosmetics, for opposing child sex changes, right? How dare you be logical? How dare you have an IQ over 70 and question our stupidity, right? It's really what it is, right? Legendary heavy metal rocker Alice Cooper has come out publicly in opposition to child sex changes, saying he's afraid that it's all a fad. He sided with Paul Stanley and Dee Snider, two other gender bending rock and rollers who are against medical sex changes for minors, right? This article comes to us from the Post Millennial and it's written by Libby Emmons, right? You should recognize her name. She's constantly on the Timcast IRL, right? Very nice girl. Hopefully get to talk to a lot of these people. I really want to talk to a lot of these people one day. But that's in the future, hopefully, right? But let's get into this, right? The present. For that, he was canceled by cosmetic company Vampire Cosmetics, which is and considered, right? This is a quote by them, autistic owned company celebrating autism acceptance, right? Now the weird thing about that is that people like Deborah So, we covered this young lady, or I don't know how old she is, this beautiful lady on the Dr. Phil show talking about this, right? She's a neuroscientist who openly says that there is some underlying when it comes to people who are detransitioners, right? That the reason why they detransition is because it turns out that they have other neurodivergent issues going on, right? I don't know the actual like the political correct way of saying it, right? This is why I hate it. Is you gotta step on so much eggshells when talking about this crap, right? But let's just go get into what she says.
I really take issue with this narrative that children quote unquote know their true selves or they know their gender identity if they believe that they're transgender or that detransition is purely due to social stigma or due to transphobia. If you actually talk to detransitioners, as I have, you'll hear the reasons as to why they have chosen to detransition, why they have regret about their decisions, in many cases having undergone medicalization. There's so many other issues that these young people are struggling with, whether it is being on the autism spectrum. They have many of them, if not all I've spoken to, have a history of sexual trauma. They are not comfortable with their sexuality if they are gay. They may have anxiety, depression, and in some cases, as in Ryan's case, if it's a young woman who reaches puberty, is not comfortable in her body, she thinks that because she doesn't like being sexualized by society, that means that she's actually a man or she's so-called non-binary, even though there are only two genders. I really take issue with.
Right, and so we covered this lady before, right, in videos in the past. Okay, she openly says that the reason why a lot of people are detransitioning is because of other underlying issues. Now, when it comes to young children, right, as we talked about with I forgot the actor's name, something Darren, who adopted a white lady who adopted two black children, and for some reason her oldest child is a trans girl, right? She has a trans daughter, and she came out in an article talking about it, saying that my young boy, right, 3 years of age, told me that he wanted to be a girl, and right, and it's like, what type of bull crap, dude? 3 years of age, and they don't understand what their genitalia does. They don't understand anything about the real world. However, they have you believe that your child has enough sense to agree that they want to be the opposite gender of what they are right now, right? They don't even know what to do as the current gender that they are, right? To say, it's just all stupidity at the end of the day, right? So the brand claims to believe people are beautiful just the way they are, but then took issue with Cooper, who says that children and teens are basically beautiful just the way they are and do not need drugs and surgery to express themselves, right? Yeah, that's complete irony, right? That's the irony right there. Complete paradox, right? Beautiful just the way you are. That means that you are beautiful the way you are right now, as present, without any alteration, right? You're a cosmic seller, right? A cosmetic seller, right? That means that you find people to be beautiful as long as they use your cosmetic brands to hide all their blemishes, right? That's what you are, right? Like that's what a cosmetic company does, right? That's what cosmetics are for. It's meant to hide your natural fallacies, right? To hide your natural scars, your natural blemishes, your facial features. That's why people get cosmetic surgery. Is to change the way that they look that they were naturally born with, right? So it's just irony altogether, right? So yet the 75-year-old rocker is out from Vampire, right? So you can clearly see the statement right here that they came out with, right? In light of recent statements by Alice Cooper, we are no longer collaborating with him, right? But what did he actually say that got him kicked off the this cosmetic brand line, right? So he comes out and says, I'm understanding that there are cases of transgenders, right? So Cooper told Stereo Gum, I think that's you pronounce that, but I'm afraid that it's also a fad, and I'm afraid there's a lot of people claiming to be just because they want to be that. I find it wrong when you got a 6-year-old kid who has no idea. He just wants to play, and you're confusing him, telling him, yeah, you're a boy, but you could be a girl if you want to be. He went on to talk about what it's like to be a kid, which many people forgot when they hit adulthood, right? I talked about this in my video talking about Jaden, the 12-year-old kid who was kicked out of class for wearing a "Don't Tread on Me" patch, the Gaston flag patch, right? And so people, these leftists, overtly try to pretend that they're not groomers, right? They all know that when you're a kid, when you're young, you're very impressionable, right? You don't want to upset your teachers. You don't want to upset the kids in your classroom. You all want to fit in. You all just want to make friends, right? So when you see things that are presented to you by your teachers, by other kids in class, you want to show interest in it because you want to make more friends, right? Or in most cases, kids are very curious and they want to know everything about anything, and they all just want to get along, feel accepted, and feel like they are a part of the bigger crowd. It's as simple as that. Okay. And so these leftists who openly know that, they all still act like children in general, right? They all know this, right? Because so they go and infiltrate these schools in hopes to indoctrinate and groom these kids, knowing fully well that they're very young and impressionable, very curious, and will accept anything you tell them at face value because they don't know any better, right? They rely on you, the adult figure, to teach them everything that you know, right? So when you tell them stuff, they're not going to question it. They're going to accept it as truth, right? And they're going to build their identity off of that, right? And these leftists, they know that crap. They know their influence over children. They know the influence that they can have by infiltrating these institutes, right? And they openly do it and then pretend when conservatives come out and say you guys are being evil right now, going after people's kids and colluding, trying to encourage kids to engage in these type of activities and to tell them to withhold this information from their parents. You know 100% what you guys are doing, right? You guys are being evil right now, right? They try to pretend like, oh, well, we're just trying to teach kids sex education. We're just trying to teach kids about being their true selves. It's like, no, you're grooming. You're groomers. You're predators. Get away from these children. There's no if and buts about it. It's what they're doing, right? Everybody can see it. And so, he goes on to say, I think that's so confusing to a kid. If it's even confusing to a teenager. You're still trying to find your identity, and yet here's the thing going on, saying, yeah, but you can be anything you want. You could be a cat if you want to be. I mean, if you identify as a tree, and I'm going, come on, what are you? What are we in? A Kurt Vonnegut novel? I don't even know who that is. Kurt Vonnegut. It's so absurd that it's gone now to the point of absurdity. Cooper said, quote, the whole woke thing, nobody can answer this question. Maybe you can. Who's making these rules? Is there a building somewhere in New York where people sit down every day and say, okay, we can't say mother now. We have to say birthing person. Get that out on the wire right now. Who is the person that's making these rules, right? We talked about this also. The new phrase that has been dropped by Rachel Levine, our Surgeon General, is now egg producer, right? You're no longer a woman because woman has to be inclusive, right? Or womexin, right? The E is replaced with an X. What a woman used to is still, in my opinion, is still defined as a woman is an adult female. However, in this new fifth wave trans inclusive intersectional feminism, Well, woman is anybody who feels that they are feminine, right? Regardless of their biological sex. So therefore, a woman is can be a guy who cannot reproduce, who just feels feminine, or a person who cross dresses and identifies as a woman, right? And if you a biological female, well, guess what? You're just a birthing person. You're just a uterus haver, or you're just a egg producer, right? And if you come out like Anna Kasparian, who comes out and says, "Hey, do not refer to me as a birthing person. I am a woman." We can come up with different terms to call women without it being so demeaning, like birthing person or uterus haver, right? What happened to her? The left in the sense on her, which is kind of like, I just sit back and say, this is what you created. This is the type of audience you cultivated. These are the type of people you associated yourself with, and now they're coming to eat you alive, right? I'm just sitting back saying, hey, screw yourself, right? You know, because again, you were a part of this radical movement that was pushing this insanity. For you to come out now and say, actually, this has gone too far. I don't like it. Sorry, the gears the gear has been set in motion, and now you're just being tossed under the bus, right? Your body's being used as a lubricant to continue to keep the machine rolling, right? You should have you should have hopped off the the train when they were trying to go full steam ahead in the beginning, right? So sorry, not sorry. But yeah, now it's time to for us to people who are logical, people who are not radicals, who to come out and just say this is crazy. Enough is enough. This is crazy. This train needs to be derailed. Okay, it needs to be derailed. It needs to be stopped at all costs because this is getting out of hand, right? He goes on to say, we have to say birding person. Get that out on the wire right now. Who is the person making these rules? I don't get it. I'm not being old school about it. I'm being logical about it. He says it's getting to the point now. Cooper went on where it's laughable. If anybody was trying to make a point on this thing, they turn it into a huge comedy. I don't know one person that agrees with this woke thing. I don't know one person. Everybody I talk to says, isn't it stupid? And I'm going, well, I respect people. I respect people and who they are, but I'm not going to tell a 7-year-old boy, go put on a dress because maybe you're a girl. And he's going, no, I'm not. I'm a boy. So I say let somebody at least become sexually aware of who they are before they start thinking about if they're a boy or a girl. A lot of times I look at it this way, the logical way. If you have these genitalias, you're a boy. If you have those genitalias, you're a girl. There's a difference between I am a male who is a female or I'm a female that's a male and wanting to be a female. You were born a male. Okay, so that's a fact. You have these things here, right? I mean, it's as simple as that, right? It's like, okay, we all know there's no such thing as non-binary, right? There's no thing called being a non-binary, right? You chose to identify as non-binary because of the it's a signifier that you are part of the progressive political clique, right? Because we covered this before. Feminist theorists openly say that gender, sexuality, gender norms are all social constructs created by the patriarchy, and that we as feminists need to raise our fists and say, down with the patriarchy, right? So, who decided to adopt those ideas? The trans community and all these other communities, right? They started adopting the whole idea that sexuality and gender norms and gender roles are social constructs. That's why the LGBT community then turned into the 2SLGBTQIA plus whatever, right? So it's all stems from feminism. And so when I sit back and I say people who identify with, the pronouns in their bios, the people who go around and claim that they are non-binary, that they're trans or whatever, right? This is all because this is really just a tribal signifier to say I am a progressive. They use all these new terms, right? When they go out and they talk about, people who are Hispanic or Latinos, right? What do they call them? They say my Latinxes, right? It's like, no, nobody outside of the progressive field identifies as a Latinx, right? Nobody outside the progressive field identifies as a Wimexan or believes that a woman is not a grown biological female. It's just not gonna happen, right? People don't sit down and average people don't sit down and see people like Leah Thomas, who is a trans woman, and say, yeah, this is fair. A trans woman should be competing in a biological female sport where they're clearly dominating the biological women in their division, right? No sane person sits down and says everything is fine. There's no issue right here with anything I'm seeing. Again, going back to I forgot her name, Darren, the lady who adopted two black children, and her oldest son is now a transgender female, right? Nobody is with a brain sits down and says, yes, this 3-year-old child came to her and said, Mommy, I'm no longer a boy, I'm a girl. And she's now allowing that child, she's now dressing that child up as a daughter and referring to her child as a girl, right? No sane person, no sensical person is going to sit there, listen to that story, and say that's all right, unless you are a far left progressive, because in your climate, everything goes, everything acceptable as long as it is pushing the progressive ideology, right? The idea of destroying the patriarchal social constructs, gender norms, sexual norms, and sexuality constructs, and all this other bullcrap that these feminist theories have created. That's what it is. It's all a signifier for I am with this particular political tribe, right? And if you're not part of that tribe, if you push back against that tribe, they will immediately excommunicate you, and then say bye bye and keep pushing their craziness, right? You're not allowed to be logical. You're not allowed to ask questions. You just have to shut up and take part in whatever the tribe wants you to do. It's as simple as that, right? It's all a bunch of craziness, okay? So, with all that being said, like, share, subscribe, stay safe, stay sane, be vigilant, and I'll see you, Patriots, on the battlefield.